Dear students, in this module we shall study about the drugs abuse. After studying this module, you shall be able to know what does the term drugs abuse actually mean and how we can classify the different drugs of abuse. You shall be able to know about the different classes of abused drugs, and all this knowledge will be helpful in your forensic investigation. Let us begin with drug abuse. That is, let us try to know what is drug abuse. Drug is a patterned use of a substance in which the user ingests the substance in quantity or with means neither approved nor supervised by healthcare specialist is formally known as drug abuse, or it is also referred to as substance abuse. Abuse of drug is not restricted to mood transforming or psychoactive drugs. When an activity is performed, as in the case of anabolic steroids for performance enhancement in sports and muscle gain against the rules and policies of the matter, then it is known as substance abuse. And that is why psychoactive and mood altering substances are not the only kind of drugs abused. Abusing the illicit drug like stimulants, depressants, narcotics, hallucinogens, cannabis and even thinner paints and glues are also considered as drug abuse types. Problem with impulse control and impulsive behavior are also considered to be coming under the category of drug abuse. Going further, the drugs like alcohol, amphetamines, barbiturates, benzodiazepines, particularly alprazolam, lorazepam and clonazepam, cocaine, methaqualone, opioids are all associated very commonly with the term drug abuse. Using and abusing these drugs may lead to criminal penalty, adding to physical, social and psychological harm, each fully depending on the local jurisdiction. Many cases are there where criminal or antisocial behavior are seen when the person is under the dominance of a drug. Even personality changes in individuals may occur as well for long time. So dear students, we will continue the study of drugs abuse and knowing about the various classes of abuse drugs in more detail with the help of graphics and visuals.
Now, let us have a look on classification of drug of abuse. Let us start with the drugs based on their origin. Drugs of abuse can be classified into following three categories. Number 1, natural. These are the drugs which are derived from plants and require little or no processing at all. The example would be cannabis, opium, coca paste, etc. Number 2, semi-synthetic. These drugs are produced by subjecting natural drugs to some chemical process. The example would be heroin and cocaine. These are the chief examples of semi-synthetic drugs. Number 3 is synthetic drugs. These drugs are made absolutely through chemical process. For example, methaqualone, also known as mandrax, amphetamine, type of stimulant, diazepam, etc. Most of the dangerous drugs of abuse fall either under semi-synthetic or synthetic category of the abuse drugs classification. Now let us have a look on the drugs based on the effects they produce. Drugs of abuse can be classified into following subcategories. Number 1, stimulants. Number 2, depressants. Number 3, hallucinogens. Number 4, narcotics. Number 5, cannabis. Number 6, volatile solvents, and then the other drugs of abuse. Now let us have a descriptive look on stimulants. Stimulants are psychoactive drugs that induce temporary improvements in either mental or physical functions or both. Due to their rendering a characteristic up feeling, stimulants are also occasionally referred to as uppers. This category comprises substances that wake one up, stimulate the mind, and may even cause euphoria, but do not affect perception. These drugs are also referred in the terminology of speed. Some of the examples are amphetamines, methamphetamines, caffeine, nicotine, cocaine, etc. Now, let me tell you something about amphetamine or its derivative methamphetamine. It may be injected direct into the blood through intravenous injection. The desire for a more intense experience is the chief motive behind this route of administration. The initial response of a flash or rush is followed by high feeling of joy, euphoria and well-being that produces hyperactivity with a feeling of vision clarity as well as hallucinations. After the effect wears off, the individual passes through a period of exhaustion and may sleep continuously for 1 or 2 days. The other type of amphetamine is methamphetamine, also called as speed because of its fact that stimulation on central nervous system. Another example that falls in category of stimulant is cocaine. It is also a powerful stimulant that produces similar effects as that of amphetamines, namely increased alertness accompanied by suppression of hunger and fatigue. Generally, it is sniffed and absorbed into the body by a mucous membrane of the nose. One other form of cocaine which is quite popular is crack. It is manufactured by heating the mixture of cocaine, baking soda, and water. It is also snorted and produces similar effects like cocaine. Now, symptoms of acute intoxication are euphoria, increased motor and speech activity, increased wakefulness, suppression of appetite. Symptoms for chronic intoxication are sleep problem, loss of appetite, mood swings, amphetamine psychosis, rapid and irregular heartbeat. Whereas withdrawal symptoms are no massive psychological failure, disturbed sleep, moderate to severe depression, and extreme fatigue. Another kind of drug is depressant. Depressants are also known as downers. It includes sedatives, narcotics, and hypnotics. This classification includes all of the calmative, sleep inducing, anxiety reducing, anesthetizing substances which sometimes induce perceptual changes such as dream images and also often evoke feeling of euphoria. Example of depressants are alcoholic beverages such as ethanol, barbiturates, benzodiazepines, etc. Now, like alcohol, barbiturates act on central nervous system to suppress its vital functions, so relax, create a feeling of well-being and produces sleep. Barbiturates are usually administered by mouth. The average sedative dose is about 10 to 70 milligrams. There are about 25 barbiturate derivatives. Some barbiturates are absorbed more slowly than others and are generally termed as long acting barbiturates like phenobarbital. On the other hand, some barbiturates are absorbed rather quickly and are termed as short acting barbiturates like pentobarbital, secobarbital, etc. Apparently, abusers prefer the faster acting ones. You see, symptoms of acute intoxication are slurred speech and blurred vision, with relief from anxiety and tension, euphoria, poor motor coordination, impaired reasoning, and concentration. And the last one would be sedation. Then comes chronic intoxication. Symptoms of chronic intoxication are fatigue, respiratory impairments, attention deficit, deteriorated memory and judgment, sleep disorders, and depression. Whereas withdrawal symptoms are insomnia, irritability and restlessness, tremors, delirium tremens, hallucinations, and convulsions. Another kind of drug of abuse are hallucinogens, the kind of psychoactive drugs which include psychedelics, dissociatives, and delirants. These come under the category of hallucinogens. Now, hallucinogen comprises all those substances that produce noticeable alteration in normal thought processes, perceptions, and mood. There are a number of substances with varying chemical compositions that have hallucinogenic properties. The example would be LSD, also known as lysergic acid diethylamide, PCP, which is phencyclidine, DMT, that stands for dimethyl tryptamine, mescaline, psilocybin, etc. Now, let us have a brief look on LSD. LSD is synthesized from lysergic acid, a substance derived from ergot, which is a type of fungus that attacks certain type of grains. This is a very potent drug. Only 25 mg is sufficient to start realistic visual hallucinations that may last for about 12 hours. LSD produces noticeable changes in mood, leading to laughing and crying at the slightest provocation. Feeling of anxiety and tension always accompanied LSD use. On the other hand, PCP is synthesized by quite a simple chemical process, thus is much more easily available. PCP is frequently mixed with other drugs like amphetamine or LSD and is sold as powder, also known as angel dust, capsules or tablets, or as liquid. The drug is smoked, ingested, or sniffed. Symptoms of acute intoxication are mood swings, distorted senses, hallucinations, and depersonalization, whereas chronic intoxication cause flashback, LSD psychosis. There is no symptoms yet reported after the withdrawal of the drug. Now, let's have a look on narcotics. The term narcotic is derived from Greek word narkotikos that means a state of lethargy. This category of drugs consists of substances that acts on the central nervous system and bring relief from pain and produce sleep. The origin of most narcotics is opium. It is a sticky milky juice obtained from the unripe pod of poppy, also known as Papaver somniferum. Example of narcotic are opium, morphine, heroin, codeine, synthetic opiates, etc. Let us discuss morphine in detail. Morphine is obtained from raw opium. It is usually administered by injection using a hypodermic needle. It results in a euphoric state with sleepy and relaxed appearance of the user. It is usually 3 to 5 times stronger than opium. Then comes heroin, also known as diacetyl morphine. It is a white crystalline powder which is a derivative formed by addition of two acetyl groups to the morphine found in the opium. Heroin in impure form is known as brown sugar. It is 10 to 15 times more potent than morphine. It may be either injected or sniffed to cause similar effects as that of opium and heroin, but with higher magnitude. Codeine is also a derivative of morphine, but is less effective as analgesic. It acts as a base in many pain relievers and cough remedies. Symptoms for acute intoxication are euphoria, drowsiness, and apathy, impaired reasoning. Overdose of heroin can cause convulsions, coma, and death. Now, withdrawal symptoms are feeling of being unwell, persistent body pain, and insomnia. Another drug of abuse is cannabis. Cannabis plants produce a group of chemicals known as cannabinoids which produces mental and physical effects when taken. As a drug, it usually comes in the form of dried flower bud known as marijuana. Its resin is known as hashish or various extracts collectively known as hashish oil. In the early 20th century, it became illegal in most of the world to cultivate or possess cannabis for sale or personal use. The symptom of cannabis while acute intoxication is done are mild euphoria, altered senses, impaired memory, and poor motor skills. Whereas in case of chronic intoxication, the symptoms are poor cognitive skills, respiratory problems, impotency, psychosis, etc. While the withdrawal symptoms of cannabis are sleep disturbance, irritability, tremors, and depression. Another kind of drug of abuse is volatile solvent. Drugs under this category are petroleum derivatives and volatile hydrocarbons. Symptoms for volatile solvent when taken as acute intoxication are euphoria, staggered gait, slurred speech, clouded thinking, hallucinations, and it can also cause sudden death, while symptoms of chronic intoxication of volatile solvents are permanent brain impairment, liver kidney and heart damage, and it can also cause psychosis. Now, let us have a look on other drugs of abuse. This category includes those drugs which are used medically but does not come into any of the above classification, such as muscle relaxants, antiemetics, analgesics, antihistamines, and antidepressants. Symptoms vary with the type of drug and its dosage.
Dear students, let us now summarize what we have learnt in this module, which was focusing on drugs of abuse. We have studied that drug is a patterned use of a substance in which the user ingests the substance in quantity or with means neither approved nor supervised by medical professionals is known as drug abuse or substance abuse. Based on their origin, drugs of abuse can be classified as natural, semi-synthetic and synthetic, and we have seen examples in each of these categories. We also studied that stimulants are psychoactive drugs which induce temporary improvements in mental or physical functions or both, and due to their rendering a characteristic up feeling, stimulants are also often introduced to as uppers. Depressants on the other hand are also known as downers, and they include sedatives, narcotics and hypnotics. It involves all the calmative, sleep inducing, anxiety reducing, anesthetizing substances which many a time induces perceptual changes such as dream images and also often bring feelings of well-being. We also studied what are hallucinogens. Hallucinogens are those substances that produce distinct alterations in the normal thought processes, perceptions and mood. Then we also studied about narcotics and learned that narcotics are the substances that act on the central nervous system and bring relief from pain and thus produce sleep. We also studied about cannabinoids, and we have learned that a group of chemicals which is called as cannabinoids is actually they are produced by cannabis plants, and these substances produce mental and physical development when consumed. And other drugs that are used as abuse drugs we also studied, they are muscle relaxants, analgesics, antidepressants, etc. And all this knowledge which has been imparted to you in this module will be giving you proper insight on the drugs of abuse and will be helpful to you as forensic scientists in your investigation.